All right.
And we're live. Hello, guys. Welcome to another Euros roundup and another set of transfer talks. It is transfer season after all. Joined today by the usual gang and WholeLottaLyes as well, which is back on the channel. Happy to have you, man. Got a specific topic lined up for you, so I know you're pretty excited for that.
Nah, I mean, thank you for having me on again, guys. It's always a pleasure. Congratulations on 300 subscribers as well. That's always good to see.
Appreciate you, man. And the usual crew are here. Go through it as usual, guys. Go on, start with George. Go on.
Hey guys, how are we doing? Hope everyone's well. Thank God I changed my name to George. It's going good. I don't know. I just wanted to give a little shout out, to Liaise again. I mean, man, that Bleacher Report news is unreal. Like, I think that's like stuff that we kind of as fans on here on Twitter just like dream of, getting that next step, and like you've crossed the divide so well deservedly. Like,
thank you, bro. Hopefully more people can follow suit, man. I really hope so. But thank you, man. Appreciate it.
And yeah, for sure, Elias, it's been a crazy achievement, but I hope for many more. And let's move on to CK. Go for it, man.
He's on mute.
Hello?
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
Man.
CK. Just
How you feeling, brother?
I've been good. Yeah.
You look good.
Thank you.
And the main man, Priv Arsenal Z, as always.
What's up, guys? Yeah, I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah, all good, guys. All good. Right, let's get straight into it. So, crazy week with the Euros this week. We still keep going. We're still going on with this stuff. Gonna start with the most recent game, with that Spain game. I mean, what are people's thoughts on it? I mean, it was a crazy game, and just want to see what you guys think.
I think Spain got lucky with a red card.
Yeah, for sure.
Switzerland got that red card because I think if that red card doesn't happen, I think what happened against Croatia could have happened again. But Switzerland are more compact than Croatia, so I think they would have scored or maybe even won the game. But they went to pens, and the pens were horrific from Switzerland.
It was horrible, wasn't it?
Yes. They didn't miss like 3 pens.
It's hard to believe it was the same guys shooting on Monday, man. It's so hard to believe it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with, like, look, red cards change games, but Spain, the one thing I'll say is that they have probably one of the second or third best coaches in the competition, right?
Talk on it.
And, in terms of possession on the ball, they were always going to dominate the game. And with Xhaka out too, I was very worried for Switzerland. And, they did well to even compete in those minutes where they were 11v11, to be honest with you. But there was clear progression issues, and you could actually tell that Switzerland were really struggling to release the ball to Seferovic as quickly as, that they had been doing. And so for me, I felt that the Spain team, the one thing that I called was M&M, where I go Morata and Moreno. They were going to be the impediment of this entire team, because Pedri's going to link play. He's going to be somebody who's going to really devastate on the wings in terms of finding those cute passes between the lines and actually providing some incision, because I think Spain, they lack really any incision in the thirds without him. And so he's definitely the through point, right? But they lack any efficiency in both boxes, both in center backs and, up top as well. So there was always going to be a brain fart moment from them in terms of either not scoring the goals they deserve or from a center back really screwing the pooch, really, not getting to their markers quickly. But Spain should have gone through, in my opinion. I think they made more hard work of it than they should have. They really should have put Switzerland away. But in terms of the game, I think it was a really cool tactical battle, really. I know people don't like that, but what you were seeing really is a team going through phases of confidence and not confidence within that game on opposite ends of the red card, and then ending on a penalty shootout that has all the drama of missed shots. So I don't know, in terms of a Euros match and like a knockout match, it's kind of everything that you wanted, to be honest with you. Red card, go to penalties, miss some penalties, and I guess maybe the favorite won in that sense. So I'm excited to see Spain lose in the next match. I don't know if they
Yeah,
really
I
carry
mean,
on, but it was a good game.
there's a couple of things I want to bring up with the Spain game. First is the insistence on the Spanish media and the Spanish press on hyping up Laporte signing for Spain and actually choosing just to play for Spain. He's a great defender, yes, but it takes more than one great defender in it to make a defense. And I love Jordi Alba as a player, and I love Aymeric Laporte, but I do not see a Pau Torres being someone that I can rely on in terms of game times, or I don't like the rest of their defenders in terms of as George said, they're not very good at the back. And Unai Simon, I don't really. I mean, he's had great moments. He's had really bad moments in this tournament. So if you're gonna rely on a back four, I don't really. You have to look at it as a team performance. And yes, Enrique is a good coach, but I don't know. What do you guys think about the defense?
I think it's a good point. I think you've already seen Enrique as well has really kind of shifted it around a lot. You've seen Llorente at right back. You've seen Azpilicueta at right back. You've seen Alba at left back. I think you saw Gaia at left back as well.
Yeah.
And then in defense in the middle, Laporte has been the mainstay, but you've seen Garcia next to him. You've seen what's his name, Pau Torres next to him. And I think for me, you miss Sergio Ramos so badly in this defense.
Yeah.
It's like a born leader back there who can kind of organize the troops. I think Laporte and Pau Torres are more of a number 2 defender. You put them next to more of an alpha guy, and they can shine. That as well as being the fact that they're both left-footed. And I think you saw when he tried bringing Garcia in there to have more of a balance, but Garcia just isn't at the level of Torres. I don't think he's at the level, period. So, yeah, the defense really could hurt them. But, George, I'm happy that you brought up Enrique. Like, he is undoubtedly one of the top 3 coaches in this tournament, if not the very best. Like, I'm a huge Luis Enrique fan. And I think when you look at the Spain team, it's not because of the amazing quality and talent that they have at their disposal. Like, of course, they have some great players that have led them to here. Most notably for me, Pedri has really made a name for himself if he hadn't already at Barca. But for me, it's the tactics, it's the way Spain play, and you have to give massive credit to Luis Enrique for that.
I mean, the other point I was gonna bring up is the absence of Granit Xhaka in that Swiss team. Z, any thoughts on the loss of Xhaka?
Well, I mean, it was clear to see, right? The way Switzerland handled that midfield. It looked like they lacked the control in midfield, and Spain. We already know they're a very good possession-based team, so it kind of fell into Spain's hand. I'm kind of shocked at how Spain dropped level in that game, and it kind of let Switzerland get back into the game. I thought they could have won the game again, but it was kind of an unfortunate event that Michael Oliver decided to destroy the game by sending the player off. But in the end, like George said, the favourites won. But I think in another day with another referee, I genuinely think Switzerland would have gone through.
I mean, for me, it was I just think that with when you lose your captain, you lose you guys saw what happened in that extra time, half time.
It killed their build-up.
They killed their build-up in terms of tactically, but in terms of on the pitch, you need that guy who's, in terms of a captain, that is going to drag you forward, even in build-up, but just in terms of mentality on the pitch.
Yeah. You definitely need a captain, but you know what it is for me, lads? It's a technical leader. And so I think we use the captain and leadership very loosely here in football, but what you need is a technical leader, somebody who demands the ball to feet and will take ownership, right? And that's what Xhaka does. Not to bring it back to Arsenal, but a big fault of this season is that we've lacked progression to give the ball to our forwards very quickly. And we've seen that effect in beautiful timing. And you know what? Switzerland was that to a T. Without Xhaka there to put his foot on the ball and send it quickly into the midfield to progress to Seferovic, that outlet becomes useless, right? It makes no sense having a runner if you're not going to get the ball to him quickly to get 1v1s. So really what you're left with is a team that's very U-shaped in passing, very much a critique of a past Arsenal team, and lacking any cutting edge. Now, Spain have similar, but the difference is they have more technical players to make use of that 50-50 game. So when you have a 50-50 game like that, and you have two teams looking to balance possession, typically the ones with the more technical leaders, not just in terms of one or two, but really that whole Spanish team has a little bit more competency on the ball, so they can make use of those tight openings, right? I don't think that Switzerland had a Pedri. They didn't have somebody in the final third to see the pockets, drop in, and maybe release a Seferovic. So they actually had the kryptonite of each other. Spain lack an outlet with really pace. Although, again, I hope they use Traore, but they're just not going to use it.
It's not gonna happen.
So it's really annoying. But, they lack somebody with that efficiency in the box. Whereas Switzerland, they lack somebody cute between the lines to receive from build-up to release their outlets. So, yeah, honestly, I think in all, that game was pretty decent. I do think that if Xhaka plays, that game becomes more interesting, I will say, because I think then that outlet from Seferovic becomes far more deadly, really. That's the fundamental thing with it. But
I think Embolo as well going out was huge, right? Embolo going out early was a big one. Like, he is the outlet for Switzerland. He has been one of their best players this tournament. Once he goes out, like, Seferovic, man, he is so hit or miss. Like, he's really tough to get behind.
I transferred him in. I was so convinced he might have a good game. I transferred him in and I thought, this is the game, because the guy next to me is a big Seferovic guy. So I thought that, you. Don't look behind you. You. Don't look behind you.
I'm not a Seferovic fan. What I said about Seferovic is with Seferovic is everybody, if you've seen throughout the tournament, Switzerland have had a lot of good performances from specific players like Xhaka, Mbola, Kanji. They've all performed well most of the time. But then Seferovic, if he doesn't perform, they won't win because most of the chances are going to him. So what I was saying about him is, if he performs, Switzerland will win, and if he doesn't, they won't. That's fair. He's the change between win or loss, because you've seen, like, in the group against Wales, they dominated Wales, but Seferovic missed like 4 or 5 chances and they didn't win. But then you watch against France, Seferovic was on, he scored 2 goals and they win. It's just Seferovic scoring or not is what keeps
For me, before we move on to the Belgium Italy game, I want to get I can't remember I think it was Z who was saying Morata might have a great tournament in this tournament, and he's had good moments and he's had bad moments. I wanted to get your thoughts on Alvaro Morata, the Spanish maestro in the front line.
Maestro.
Bro, to be fair, I mean we already know the reputation behind Morata. I think someone on the pod the other week said he's the Mustafi of strikers, but I completely disagree, because I feel like he does at least 7 out of the 10 things right, but when it comes to the finishing, I don't know what happens. Does his brain go bonkers? I have no idea, but he does not know how to finish. Let's simply put it as that, and we see that in many games. But the fact is, right, he has always been known to score clutch goals. He's done it for Juventus. He's done it for Madrid. I've not seen much from Atletico, but I just had a feeling he'd probably replicate that for Spain, and he has done that. He has done that quite a bit, but I don't know if somehow Spain get to the final and he misses that.
Whoa! They got to get past Italy first.
That's what I said. Somehow. That's what
for me, it's that follow up on the pen. Oh,
he's such an annoying player, though.
Oh God!
Because even other defenders who played against him, like Miko Richards was saying that I hate playing against Morata because he's always moving, always linking up play. The confidence when it comes 1-on-1 it just disappears.
Just not there, yeah.
You know what it is with Alvaro Morata? I use this example. So he is for a coach. He's like those girlfriends that look at you and say, "I can fix him. I can, I can change him. I can change his ways."
Oh, God.
Because as a coach, you look at this guy, all right, and he's got everything in the toolbox to be a complete 9. He really does. He can hold up the ball. He runs between the lines, okay? He's cute in tight spaces. He can release outlets, all right? He's got aerial ability when he does focus and use it. But again, that final action, that final, composure when it's really needed is lacking. So as a coach, you're like, I can coach that. I can coach that out of him. And then I've got 100 million pound striker on my hands. And I think that's the reason he gets these big moves. Not so much of his skill, but the projection of what he could be and what a coach could do to change him. And so for him, I never see him hitting the heights because I don't believe he has the mentality to be a killer. That's really what it is. And for a striker, you need that. But I can see the logic as a coach saying, I can fix him. I can try to change him.
He's a theory striker, man. In theory, he should be really good. I agree 100%. It's his mentality for me. It's his confidence. And he has every single physical trait he needs. He's fast, strong, good in the air, good with both feet, powerful, makes runs in behind, always moving, good link up. But for me, if you're a striker who scores 1 out of 10 chances, you can have all of that stuff at the end of the day. I'm good off that, man.
Was he like that for Juventus and Real Madrid though? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, he's been like that pretty much all.
I mean, this year, if you watched Juventus versus Porto, he was offside 3 times.
He scored offside goals.
He was like Yilmaz in the group stages. It was
such a weird guy, man. He's a weird guy because doesn't he have a Champions League final goal?
Yeah, he has a Champions League semifinal goal too against Madrid.
It's because he goes on runs, right? If he's a confident striker. There was a full possibility of him being, going on a run this tournament, but that's only predicated on him stringing together a couple goals. He's just that type of player, and so I don't think though that you can ever rely on. I would never want him as a top 6 striker for a Premier League team ever, because I could never trust him to in key moments put things away, but. I don't know. Maybe just quickly, just to preview before we jump to the other games, because they're going to face Italy. And that is a huge game for me, where it's the battle of the best coaches in the tournament right now. And I think that Italy, with Spinazzola out, they're going to struggle. So the same Italy that we've seen in previous, I'm worried now because of the injuries. I don't know what you guys feel, but Spinazzola is a huge part to what they've been doing.
He's arguably their best player, so
losing go on. No, I was just going to say that's a great segue to move on to the next game, but I want you to get your point out first, EK. Go on.
Yeah, even with if you watch the Belgian game a lot, you see him making darting runs, and he's one-on-one, or not one-on-one, but in the box, big chances. So losing that football with Emerson coming in, who I don't think is even on the same level or anywhere near the level, is definitely a massive loss. And to see him crying the whole time going around couldn't be good for the team anyway. So losing that, arguably, I think their best player probably this whole tournament is always weighing on them mentally and physically, to be honest.
I think the biggest loss for Italy from this is also how is Insigne now going to play with because for me, Spinazzola unlocks Insigne's game completely. He completely
100%.
Dominates that left-hand side from one end to the other, and he's such a headache for defenders to take care of that Insigne has so much space to kind of play as that half space winger, and he has this yesterday. Come on, Insigne was amazing. How does he change now once probably going to be Emerson comes into the 11? For me, I agree completely. Spinazzola has been one of the revelations of this tournament, one of the best players for sure, and I'm heartbroken for him, man. Man, he's having such a good tournament. He's had so many injury problems in the past, and this was really he was announcing himself kind of the world stage that, this is a great left wing back.
And alternatively, though, so you've got, I would argue, so Italy likes Spain. They lack thrust, right? They've got an absolutely incredible midfield that will dominate anybody in the tournament, but they lack a thrust. While Spinazzola has provided that, we saw in the dying embers Chiesa. And so we finally saw him getting in there.
And you also saw Immobile.
Exactly. And so what I'm really interested to see, though, is will the thrust that Spinazzola provided that would unlock Insigne maybe go on the opposite wing, where Chiesa could provide that cutting edge and a thrust aspect, because he's going to provide an outlet. And maybe if you just stick Emerson on the wing, he's going to be poor defensively, but just having a body there to allow Insigne to get involved in play could be enough to kind of get by the Spanish team that actually lack outlets. So when you're looking at, their opponents, I actually don't think that the runs behind is something that really Italy will need to be worried about with a Spanish team that's focused really on progression in the midfield. So I really love Chiesa. I was a big fan. We said it in our predictions. I wish he would have been the outlet and that he was yet to come in. And, he showed that he's got that ball striking. You know what I really like about him? He's just an anti-typical Italian. He's very much, he could be an English player, in terms of his physique and, what he really offers. He's just a very great ball striker. And I think that goes really far in today's game. It actually gets understated how great ball striking can be in terms of, giving you an output. And so I think that Chiesa is going to be maybe that opposite thrust. And, I was really impressed with them, too, if you do want to segue to that next game, because I think he's going to be the danger man going forward because they're going to have the midfield to give him the ball. That's one thing that Spain don't have. They've got the midfield, but they've got no outlet ball that is consistent. Chiesa, I think he's consistent. You give him a chance, he'll put it away.
Yeah, I prefer him to Barella for sure.
Right.
No,
So
Berardi, sorry. Not Barella. Berardi, yeah.
Yeah, because even with yesterday, you saw him like working well with, or giving good passes to Immobile, who I think has been very poor this tournament. Oh no, seriously.
Why does he get so much defense? I get hammered on Twitter.
He scores 30+ goals every
I'm
season.
I'm sorry, but Belotti should be starting. I don't care what people say. I think Belotti should. Do we have any disagreements here?
No, I think Belotti maybe should start the next game because
I'm there for it.
Especially his final action has been so poor. Very poor.
George? Immobile or Belotti?
Either or. To be honest with you, I think both they're as good as each other. I don't think Belotti offers much more than Immobile beyond the off the ball. I think that's maybe the only addition. But I mean, in terms of output, it's really left hand, right hand at that point in terms of who you rather have. I think I would go with Belotti just for the off the ball movement with Chiesa. They're both pressers, so I don't know if you guys watch there. I think there was a big difference where I think Immobile may give you the unpredictability and shot. I don't think Belotti has that shot power from deep or distance really, but he'll give you off the ball pressure. So and you know what, Spain, that's the one thing that you hate with Pau Torres or any of the center backs. If you want to press them, you can get at them, right?
Yeah.
So I actually think that's good.
Yeah. So since we're talking about this Belgium Italy game, and since we're talking strikers, I want to say this now. I'm going to say this forever. Never, ever say Romelu Lukaku is not world class ever again. I'm not having it. The man is world class. He's won a league title. He's an absolute beast. He's been feasting in this past season, and I'm sorry, but the guy is world class. He's got to be a Ballon d'Or candidate. He's not going to win it, but he should be a candidate at least.
I think he was the best striker in the tournament.
He's the best striker in the tournament, and I was saying this on Twitter as well before. The target man is back, lads. The big man in the middle is back. I don't care what you guys say. Benzema, Lewandowski, Lukaku, the best strikers in the world right now are true nines, and you're gonna shake your head. It's coming back. We're seeing a resurgence. We're seeing a resurgence of a big man in the middle who is able to link play, who's able to have who's great in terms of ball striking. Their awareness in the box, their awareness receiving the ball, their elite first touch. Did I call who?
Did you call Kane a target man?
Look, I want to ask Lies because look, you've got the previous experience, obviously a United fan, right? So I think there was a lot of tropes that I think were levied at him in terms of his time at United, which at the time were definitely true. But in terms of what you've seen at this tournament, do you think it's fair? I'm not with the Ballon d'Or shout, but I am with the shout that he's probably the best.
I'm not saying he's going to win it. I'm saying he should be at least a candidate.
I was literally until obviously the game yesterday. I was leading the charge for if Romelu Lukaku won Belgium the Euros and won Player of the Tournament or won Best Goal Scorer after winning Inter's first Scudetto after 10 years, after winning Serie A Player of the Year. I was leading the charge saying, if he does all of that, he deserves to win the Ballon d'Or. Obviously, that doesn't happen anymore. I think now Messi is probably the favorite for that award. He probably should win it. But this is a completely different player to the one at United. It's night and day watching him play.
He looks motivated.
For me, it's more than just I looked at the way it's kind of so you're saying the target man is kind of returning, but I think Lukaku kind of proves why the target man isn't returning and why. Now you need to be someone who can kind of ride the channels. Lukaku at United, I thought his worst period of form came under Mourinho, who was almost trying to use him as a Drogba. And he might have the same body type, the strength, the size, but he's just not that kind of player. And I think Conte has kind of made him this. Martinez has really utilized him this. But he almost plays more on the right-hand side where he's running down the wing, kind of turning players and going down that direction. For me, that's what the modern-day forward is. Someone who can... hold up the ball, but also kind of like run into the channels, bring players into the half space, bring other players into play. And that's Romelu Lukaku today in 2021. That goal that De Bruyne scored against, who was it, Denmark, where Lukaku, it was a great team goal, but that all comes from Lukaku holding up the play on the right-hand side, turning his defender with absolute ease, running in, playing it, and then, of course, you have the brilliant goal from De Bruyne. But that's today Lukaku in 2021. He is a complete striker. He is an absolutely brilliant forward. And I think the best compliment I can really give him is that if he had never played for United before, if we had never signed him, he would be our number one transfer target this window. He is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's type of striker, which is so frustrating to see him now thriving somewhere else. But he's the kind of 9 we need, honestly.
Well, I'm going to clarify.
What's weird about the Lukaku shout is, like, I felt that his time at United really, I don't think that Conte did anything different than what Mourinho was trying to do, but got across in a way that got to Lukaku. And so, for example, holding the ball but turning. Like, Lukaku's biggest strength, we saw it with that little skit with Jamie Carragher that everybody, laughs about, like, trying to turn him. But, like, in reality, when Lukaku has you pinned and he goes on the run, he's impossible to stop.
Absolutely.
No, it's absolutely impossible. When he takes that ball first touch, and he turns you, spins you. It's over.
Legally,
and he's got that 5-yard burst. So I talk about this all the time. In the Premier League, the biggest key metric, I don't know if Lies, if you agree, but for me, the biggest metric of somebody succeeding, even outside, is do they have an elite burst in the first 5 yards, and can they work on the half turn? So are they able to, when they're hit from behind, ride the challenge, and then burst over the first 5 yards? If you have that, I can almost guarantee you're going to adapt in the Premier League.
You've also got to have that 15-yard burst as well, George. There's multiple bursts you need.
You do, and I say that as well. But that's the biggest metric, right? And then Lukaku has the power to continue that pace again over the 15 yards. So the thing is, I think he was doing or trying to do this at United, but he didn't get the same instruction from Mourinho because it didn't work. Everyone was saying that he had Timberland boots, which I think is nonsense. His touch is great. You don't in a year get excellent touch. That doesn't happen.
It's trained for years and years to get to that point.
It's trained by the age. For me, by the age of 23, you're as good technically as you're going to be.
That's probably
your technical limits aren't going to expand after 23, but how you're maybe using those limits and how you use them will change. And so, I was just interested to see, because I think the Lukaku is such a different one we've seen. And I think, look, certain coaches get certain players, right? Like, we've seen this with even Sebastian Veron with you guys, right? At United, how great was he in Italy? And then when he came in as a world star, he struggled. So, like, world-class players can, struggle in different managerial setups, right? Like, I don't think
100%.
it's a hammering. I guess my point is, I wouldn't hammer United as a club for not fostering world-class talents, because this happens at every club. But
if we're going to bring it back,
he is probably the best 9 in the world at this point.
He's the most complete by a mile. He's the most complete for me.
Yeah. So
I mean, just to bring it back. So, I get what Lies is saying. My point is that it's not like, all you guys know. My football I'm very much a traditionalist. I love modern football, but I love my favorite team in terms of teams is actually the Cruyff Barca with Stoichkov and Butragueno and Laudrup. That is my favorite team in football history, apart from obviously the Arsenal Invincibles. But that's where I have my football philosophy. And when I say target man, I mean an evolution of the target man, to what Lies was saying. So you're having someone that is running channels, but is also, and this is the key thing in terms of a so-called target man, an ability to feed balls into both channels at an elite level to bring in other forwards. You saw this Michael Laudrup do this with Stoichkov and Butragueno time and time again. He would draw defenders to him, and he would release runners past him. And if you see a Romelu Lukaku now, you mentioned that De Bruyne goal. It's a perfect example. Lukaku drew defenders towards him, and he allowed the runners around him to run past into the space they created. And that's how I feel the big man in the middle is going to evolve in terms of in terms of the modern day football, because you have such half space dominance now in the modern game that you need someone that is going to be able to allow your half space creators or your half space runners to get in behind and actually show what they can do on the ball and get the ball in the back of the net. So I don't know what you guys think, but that's just how I'm looking at things in terms of going forward as a target man.
Maybe in that evolution, I just look at me and Curran, we're never going to agree because we have footballing philosophies that are totally different. Like, I don't believe that having a striker do that job is necessary. I think that job can be done by any technical reference. Like, I don't think you have to restrict that to a striker. In fact, I think you limit his potency getting him outside the box to do that. I would rather my strikers be in the box as close to goal as much as possible throughout the match. And so that's where we would differ on a philosophy level. But maybe bringing it back to the Euros in terms of just Lukaku, I think that I always felt that he would go out at this stage, maybe more so towards, Italy, but it's just too bad because I think we've deprived ourselves of the goal scoring or the most goal scoring player of the tournament, really, because he's somebody that should win it. And I don't know if he'll get a chance to, just because of the fact that he's not in enough games in the competition to have it go his way. And look, I think Belgium, I think it's worth saying this is the third successive World Cup tournament that the supposed Belgium golden generation has failed to deliver. At what point are we as a football fraternity going to level the due criticism I believe they are due, because they have an immense team that has failed to impress at the biggest stage constantly, not just one tournament, not just two tournaments, but now for a third tournament in a row. Because I'm sorry, when you look at that Italy team, no matter how great they are in terms of being coached and whatnot, are you telling me that Belgium don't have the ability to win with who they have on the pitch? In terms of kryptonite, right? You look at Italy.
Look at that team. Look at that team, right? Just quickly say, you look at the starters in that team. Look at Vermaelen, for God's sake. If you're starting Vermaelen in 2021, it's not 2011. Right? We're not in 2011. He's not the Arsenal captain anymore.
No, but you've got Kevin De Bruyne, who's everyone argues is the greatest attacking midfielder, potentially, or in the conversation too, but he is one of the best in the world. Romelu Lukaku, who's one of the best nines in the world. Axel Witsel, who's one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. When you look through the spine of that team, they have among the best in their position in the world. And when you are looking at it, the weakness in defense wasn't something that Italy were going to exploit. Their strengths were in midfield. So when you're talking to me about matchups right now, Belgium are the worst matchup for Italy on paper. Why do I say that? Because in terms of outlets and efficiency in the midfield, they had players to compete, something Italy had not experienced in the competition. And when you're telling me about defense, they have Chiellini leading the progression.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I understand, but we were saying before about Spain and how you need a balanced defense. Like, you can't, there is I mean, we're going to get onto Doku, and I can talk about Muniz as well.
Doku is another one, exciting talent.
Talent. But like, you've got to admit there are weaknesses in this Belgium team. I think they've underperformed.
Weaknesses in every team, though. There's weaknesses.
No, but there's severe weaknesses. Severe weaknesses.
Well, only in defense. Again, and if you're looking throughout the thirds of the pitch, Italy have more weaknesses up front and in defense than Belgium do across the front of the line. That's what my point is. While they may have a lack of defensive competency, they excel in the midfield, they excel in outlets, they excel in attack, and they have a coach who's a decent coach, maybe not the same level as others in the competition, but he's a decent coach, and he should have done more with those players at his disposal.
For sure.
I will not accept that when you have a team with Doku, Lukaku, with Kevin De Bruyne, Thorgan Hazard, who, by the way, has had a great season with Borussia Dortmund, okay?
And a great start.
I will not accept that front line cannot trouble a Chiellini defense. A defense with Locatelli, Verratti, no matter how great they are, they're slow. They are very slow in terms of their progression. I will not have that they can't compete and made more of a game from it. I'm just very disappointed, and I'm tired of everyone saying how great Belgium is going into every tournament and failing to progress. I think it's a huge thing.
To be fair, I'd compare this to the England situation that was there 10 years ago. It seems like there's a lot of good Belgian players, but the manager's struggling to get them all in the team. And whenever you see them play, I've seen them for at least the past 3 tournaments. It just seems like this Belgium team, they just lack cohesion on the pitch. They can't form a a partnership on the wings in central midfield. And it just seems like they're just filling in holes with players just to make up numbers. Really, in the previous tournament we saw Jason Denayer. This season, this tournament we're seeing Vermaelen. It just seems like they don't even know what is their best team. They don't know which players that can play together. Create the best output. When you're looking at it from a collective perspective, you're just seeing just all the best players on the pitch with no game plan. And I think like that kind of mirrors how England used to be 10 years ago when we had Steven Gerrard and Lampard in a 4-4-2 with Aaron Lennon and Ashley Young on the wings. It was just really weird to see because there was no game plan. And this is exactly what Belgium are doing, and they've just wasted their golden generation with a manager that had no game plan himself as well. So, good kudos to them, innit? Because I don't really care about Belgium. But,
I don't. I make the point because I feel as football, even Tielemans, like, guys, when you actually go through that team, okay, in midfield, all right, Tielemans and Kevin De Bruyne as starters right now as an 8 or a 10, that is really great to compete with Verratti, Locatelli, Jorginho. Mm-hmm. Like, if you were to go through those midfields, right, and if you were to even dream up, what do I need to beat an Italian midfield? They have it. And so I struggle to understand where the praise comes from so many different tournaments, which, look, maybe it is the coach, maybe it's tactics, maybe it's what you're saying, Z, about collective energy over, having a team in Italy who have great structure, great team balance. Maybe it is that. But for me, I've always felt that individual quality needs to preside, and there needs to be some level of responsibility on these world-class players to do it on the biggest stages for their country. Because if they're not going to do it, regardless of whether the coach sets you up, I think you have the quality to outshine and even the profile to outshine that team. And I just didn't see it. So kudos to Italy, kudos to Mancini. He's definitely one of the best.
He is the best manager in this tournament.
He is the best in the tournament.
Yeah, him or Enrique, I would say, are the best too. But I think for me, that kind of brings it to my point. I think in this tournament, I've always said international football is all about the individual. It's all about the players who kind of make the tournament because, like, there's not really much tactics. Like, managers don't have enough time to implement a style of play on their team. So for the most part, it's all to do which star players can kind of take the stage and dominate themselves. You've seen it so many times. However, this tournament really hasn't kind of been like that. I mean, you look at the semifinal here, you have Spain versus Italy. They aren't filled with superstars. They're filled with 2 really great coaches who clearly have a defined style of play, and it's so evident when you watch their team play. And I think even when you look at England's star players haven't really turned up. I think you have to actually give Southgate credit.
It's just Sterling.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm not a fan of Southgate, but I'm going to give the guy credit. I think he set up his team extremely well, no matter what criticism he's gotten every step of the way. They have a defined way of playing, whether you like it or not, whether it's beautiful on the eye or not, he has a way of playing. And you've seen teams like France, you've seen teams like Portugal, you've seen now Belgium are, for me, the biggest example throughout tournaments. It's, for me, a pragmatic coach whose idea is kind of put men behind the ball and let your star players cook. And like, this tournament, it just hasn't come off for France, for Portugal, for Belgium. It just hasn't worked out. And I don't know whether it's the depth of the pragmatic manager in international football. I don't know if like more national teams now will look to get a real tactician to accompany the star players that they have. Maybe that's the way forward. But for me, you've seen the managerial role really increase in international football this tournament.
I mean, I think that's a good way to move on to the France game because it's. I just feel like what happened there, guys. I'm gonna quickly get I'm gonna get a charger quickly, but I'll let you guys discuss this France game quickly.
I told you, Curran, what would happen. I'll lead this thing because I said that France would falter. That would be a closing of the chapter. And look, it's not due. I think I did play about Benzema, and I don't know what his dynamic would go into the tournament and be like. But when you look at that France squad, immediately what I see are a collection of individuals right now that really relied on individual brilliance from Paul Pogba, who had an immense tournament, like an absolutely immense quarterback tournament. Maybe there's a conversation to be made why we don't see more of that from him, because he clearly can do that role. And, for everyone telling me that Paul Pogba can't play deeper, watch him for France. That's nonsense. He absolutely can play deeper. But France, look, they ultimately fell by the sword of egos. That's what I'm going to let you. Now, I called maybe Benzema would do that, and maybe Benzema would disrupt squads, but really we saw that with Kylian Mbappe. And the premise that I said in the predictions happened, where egos was the downfall of that tournament. Now, look, Deschamps had really horrible ways of accommodating the left back injuries that they had, like Rabiot. That was a stupid error. He should never have put, Rabiot in that position to provide that width. I think that was horrendous from him. But fundamentally, I believe that egos were the ones that lost them the tournament, because they really should have progressed at this point. They had the individual quality. They had the chances also in that game to capitalize. Like, you can't say that France didn't have opportunities to take hold of those chances, namely the main man who really we're all going to talk about soon, I'm sure. But Mbappe, if you're going to talk the talk, my guy, you got to walk the walk, right?
What was that pen?
And it's not just the pen, but even his play in the tournament, he was bluntless. Like, there was no cutting edge. And, for everything that Mbappe was, he wasn't that in the tournament. And yeah, I agree. Koeman should have been given more time, because as an outlet on the left, if you're then talking about somebody who's devastating in a similar profile, Koeman is that. And yeah, I called that France would have an end to their era. I did. It surprised me it was that early. I'll be honest. I didn't predict that. I thought they would do it against Italy, but it doesn't surprise me that they fell by their own egos. Because, guys, France has a history of this. It wasn't just this too. Like, France has a history in world-class tournaments for falling to egos. Like Anelka, this controversy plagues France throughout the entirety of their history in international football. So to believe that wouldn't rear its head after a very successful era was foolish, in my opinion. But I think Mbappe has to go back and think about what kind of player he wants to be. I really don't think he'll ever reach his potential in PSG. I'm going to go hard on Mbappe because I valued him so great. I don't think he's progressed since 2018. I don't think so. As a player, I haven't seen him progress farther than when he broke onto the scene. Yeah, he scored some crucial goals, but has he ever taken the leadership in terms of commanding titles, Champions League? No. They just lost the league to Lille when they really shouldn't have. Don't give me – look, I love Lille. They're a great team, but individual quality-wise, that shouldn't be happening.
No.
Okay? Especially in
Look
Ligue
at the front three. Look at the front three for PSG.
You go to the Champions League. Has Mbappe taken the shirt? Has he taken over the mantle from that team? He hasn't. He scored some crucial knockout goals, but he should be the one. If we're going to put him in future Ballon d'Or shouts, right, he should be the one that's dragging PSG to a Champions League final. If he's going to take over Ronaldo and Messi, I believe that's a fair expectation to have on them, because those two players have done that for not just 1, 2, 3 years, for a decade. And Mbappe has yet to do it for 3 or 4 years, and I just don't see him as any different from the teenager that broke onto the scene back in 2018 in terms of progression. I think it may be, sure, he's a great player, but he hasn't shown me anything new to his game. He hasn't really secured big moments. He's had great times, but he hasn't had the consistency of a campaign. I don't think I've ever seen him take the team to new levels. And I think that's what you have to do to be on the level of a Messi and Ronaldo. You can't just have good moments. You can't just be world-class in your own right. You need to drag your team to new heights. And I don't think PSG, since 2018 or since when Mbappe has come in, has progressed as a club. So I don't think you can levy that criticism in terms of putting them on those alien levels of Ronaldo and Messi. Like, let's hold on.
No, you can't. No, there's no way. First. I mean, I would like to say there's multiple problems in that France team that lined up in that game. One, what was Longley doing there? I'm sorry, but they have such good defenders. They have Lacroix didn't even bring. They had
Fofana, Koundé,
Upamecano. Like, what is Longley doing there? What are we doing? Come on, guys.
That's Deschamps.
I know it's Deschamps. That's what I'm saying. Why?
In midfield and defense, I don't think.
What was he doing?
I think he let too many players go.
He brought Sissoko, for God's sake.
He brought on Sissoko. That's the even worse part.
Like, what?
He didn't just bring him from
the game.
Bro, like we're gonna get onto him, but like Samari's there, man. I know he was at the under-23s, but just take him out. Samari is there.
Kakare, Awar, Kamavinga.
Too many players.
Listen,
many.
George, I mean, first of all, I'm trying to digest everything you just said because that was a lot.
Yeah.
Those are some big points about Mbappe, man. Like whether they're right or wrong, fair enough for saying them. I want to touch on a few of them. First of all, I thought the decision to, I mean, how many times did we say this tournament? France look at their best when Ousmane Dembele is on the pitch or Coman is on the pitch. When you bring on another outlet, they look the best against Hungary when Ousmane Dembele came on. They looked the best against Germany when Portugal when Kingsley Coman came on. They looked the best against Switzerland when Kingsley Coman came on. So for me, absolutely amateurish managerial decisions there to keep playing with that three in midfield of Rabiot, who offers absolutely nothing. I could speak all day on Rabiot. For me, he's an absolute
we all could, I think, mate.
Should never have been in the French national team to begin with after his shenanigans last time.
Again, Soumare is there.
Forget about Soumare. Literally, Rabiot is a spoiled brat, in my opinion. I think he proved what he was when he rejected the reserve spot in the last World Cup. For me, like that's a decision that should never have seen him back in the national team, but that's a discussion for another day. On Deschamps, I think when we're talking about managers who kind of set up with a defensive block and kind of hope that their best players provide the goods, that's Didier Deschamps summed up in one action. And for me, the reason France won last World Cup, outside of just being the best team, because we see the best team doesn't always win these international tournaments. There's so much luck involved with it. It's not always the best wins it. That's just knockout football in general. But for me, the reason France won it was they were all hungry and they had a very common goal, right? They were trying to avenge the 2016 Euro loss on their own turf against Portugal. And second of all, I think there was just so much more of a team unity. Everyone kind of had the same goal. They all were on the same page. Deschamps, to be fair to him, did a really good job of managing that locker room. Yeah. This Euros, and I think, George, you make a good point, they all had different goals in mind. Instead of looking at one tournament to kind of be like, okay, we're winning the World Cup, Mbappe, I think, was trying to use this tournament to kind of make his name. And people were saying he was going to win the Ballon d'Or if he won the Euros. Maybe he would have, but I think he had that too much in his frame. Rather than, hey, let's win the tournament. Let's bring France more glory than they already have. I thought there were numerous players, honestly, who were kind of playing for themselves. And for me, Pogba had an amazing tournament. Griezmann, I thought, honestly, my thoughts on him are a lot higher than they were a year or two ago. I thought he had a really good tournament. And Benzema, I think, really announced himself back to the international stage. This is why he's one of the best strikers in the world. The rest of them, man, that French defense is shambolic. Pavard, barely professional in my opinion. I think Argentina really gave this guy a career. I think he's so average. I thought Kimpembe, right? Everyone wants to talk about this Pogba mistake that he did for the third goal. But that happened in the middle of the pitch. Midfielders lose the ball in the middle of the pitch. For me, Kimpembe falling to ground at the simplest of chops is amateur defending. Varane, I thought, had an okay tournament. But again, for someone that United's being linked to for 45 million, you'd expect a whole lot more in that regard. It's good money, right? Like 45 million for Varane is a bargain for me, but
if it's 45 million, we're gonna get into it. But it's 45 million.
Yeah. That's... But for me, again, I see a lot of mistakes in Varane's game. I thought he was the best French defender this tournament, but the names I'm saying doesn't make that a huge accomplishment.
It's not saying much. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. I thought Conte, like for all the hype that came after the Champions League final, had a bang average tournament at best. So for me, this France team was just. It was the exact opposite of the last World Cup where everyone was on the same page. Everyone was playing to their max potential. Everyone was playing for the team, right? You saw Pogba basically playing a defensive role last World Cup for the good of the team. Not to say that he took a more selfish view of this. I think he did what he had to do. But this French team was completely on the wrong page. And I think that the headline has to be Mbappe, George, like you said. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying he hasn't improved or he hasn't gotten better since he was a teenager. I don't think I'd go that far. I think his consistency has been amazing the last few years. Like the amount of goals he scores, albeit in Ligue 1, are remarkable. And I think if he is to go to a better team, is there a better team? That's another question. Maybe we'll see a different Mbappe. But I
think he's hit a higher peak than that World Cup.
I'm gonna ask everyone a couple of questions just before we move on to the transfer stuff. So for me, the first question I want to ask is, who is people's player of the tournament so far?
Spinazzola.
George?
Come back to me. I got to think about this.
Z?
But it's going to change probably.
You put me on the spot as well, man, honestly.
I can go to Lies and I can give mine if you guys want to go.
I can give you mine. Honestly, this isn't to say he should win the Ballon d'Or because again, I've seen some insane claims for who should win the Ballon d'Or, and this guy is nowhere near the conversation. But I'm gonna give it to Jorginho. I think Jorginho has had an amazing tournament.
He's had a
I
very
think
good
he's
tournament,
actually really raised the last few months have done Jorginho wonders, man. I mean, this guy was the laughing stock in England, but he had such a key
Three
role
at the
in the
back.
Champions League.
Three
Yeah,
at the
he's really
Mm.
raising people's thoughts on him, and I think he's had an amazing tournament for Italy. I think he's been the main guy for them. He's the first name that came to my mind, but I think he's been really good for Italy this tournament.
Mm. I'm so tempted to troll. I'm so tempted to troll. I want to say Patrick Schick, but I'm not. I'm not going to say Patrick because he has had a great tournament. But in terms of player of the tournament, even though he's at home, Pogba was amazing.
Yeah, I was just about to say. I completely forgot about Pogba. Yeah, amazing.
He's had some great moments. And on the Benzema point, I'm sorry, but he's shown himself to be that guy again. That goal where he dragged it from behind him. Jesus, like get the Zidane meme gif out when that was a crazy goal. And if you're looking at someone to talk to, is between. I mean, Pedri's had a great tournament as well.
I would have said De Jong, but
that was my pick. So
I think his last game let him down. I think he was pretty poor.
What about Pedri, guys? Because Pedri's had a great tournament as well.
Pedri has been quietly really good. He's very instrumental to that Spain team because there's not a lot of like you guys are correctly pointing out. There's not a lot of like star attackers. There's no outlets in that team, so he really has had to take most of the creative burden. But I have to agree, Pogba for me, I completely forgot about him.
I think if Ukraine win today, I'm going to switch my mind to Zinchenko.
He's been good too.
I want to give maybe a couple shouts before I give my pick, but I think Luka Modric. Look, it's a team that people didn't really value, but Modric has been immense in that midfield, and actually getting them kind of decently far, where they were really kind of hammering out. He's a good shout. Frankie De Jong was somebody I was going to mention because Holland had no business with that team being as good as what they were. Like there was a point when Holland and Italy were among those that felt that had performed the best in the tournament, and that was all on De Jong. Like that wasn't on really many players. That was totally on him pulling them out. I'm gonna mention probably for my final pick, probably Lukaku. I'll be honest, because for me, when I've looked at it, I wanted to go somebody from Italy because they've been the best team in the tournament, but I think that was it. They've been the best team, not necessarily individual. So for me, in terms of having somebody drag you through a tougher side of the draw too, in terms of how far Belgium went, I think Pogba is a good shout, but I think Lukaku had more of an effect on his team than Pogba did for France. I mean, Pogba is always great for France, but I think Lukaku's impact for Belgium is massive. Where if you remove Pogba, he's going to be a big miss, but I think there's others that can step up in that France team. I don't know if I get that same confidence from Belgium, to be honest with you. And I think Lukaku, look, it's basic. He gets the goals, but for me, he's been the one that's been the talk of the tournament from a 9 perspective and changing viewpoints. So probably Lukaku for me so far.
Yeah, he's been really good. I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, Z, if you got an answer yet? Or?
I mean, I've been thinking, and to be fair, I would have gone with either Lukaku or Paul Pogba, but I think my final choice will probably be Paul Pogba. I think many of the games that I watched him play, he was doing things that I was like, how the hell have you done that? Like,
he's so graceful.
And Pogba, I think this tournament, like everything anyone's ever said about him, was on show this tournament. Like anyone, people love throwing hypotheticals about him. Like people say, "Oh, he's not as good as people think." But any praise or credit anyone has ever given Pogba was on full display this tournament, and it's a shame because I think he probably won't win Player of the Tournament just because of how early he got knocked out. But for me, he would have won it for sure.
And I'm happy he played very well without Kante performing.
Yeah,
a lot of the time, people go, "Oh, he's only playing well because Kante's playing well," and he was levels above Kante this tournament.
For sure.
The lot before I move on to our semi-final predictions and a winner, there is one player that no one's talked about, and I think he deserves us to be a shout here, and that is Raheem Sterling, because Raheem Sterling he's got the goals for England, and if you want to talk about someone who's dragged, like George was saying, dragged the team to where they are at the moment, Raheem Sterling is that guy for England at this point in time. He's the one banging the goals. He's been a great transitional outlet. He's been a runner and someone that is criminally disrespected by the English media and from fans across the world. I feel like he does deserve to be in this conversation. I want to see what you guys think before we move on.
Yeah, he has been. He's literally scored 3 out of 4 England goals.
Yeah,
for the tournament. So if someone has taken their team far, I don't think in general play he hasn't really taken them, but obviously the output matters. And if he's the only one getting output, then that's the only way they literally scored. So with not Kane,
Sterling.
Yeah, I just think it depends on how England progress from now. To be honest, because if England do win it, and I do see Sterling the only one with his shooting boots on, so he probably will get it if they do get to the final.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna quickly answer the quick question here. It's Pogba. It's
who had a better turn, Pogba or KDB? Oh my goodness!
It's Pogba. That's not even really a question. But yeah, that's not really a question. And so before we move on to transfer stuff, I want to get some semi-final picks and a winner. So, CK,
Italy.
Obviously we know one of them.
Beat Spain. I think Italy beat Spain, and we don't know who's playing that one. So. Today I think
who's winning the last 2 games. Basically give me a 4 and then give me a winner. So we know 2 of them.
I think Czech Republic may beat Denmark, and England will beat Ukraine. Even though I want Ukraine to win, but England
no winner.
And then England will beat Czech Republic, and then Italy will beat Spain.
So a winner on the final, Italy, England.
Yeah, really quickly. I don't know. I think Italy beat Spain. I think that's kind of actually kind of easy to predict, to be honest with you. I think Spain have been good, but Italy have just been better. They have more reasons to hurt. I think England beat Ukraine today. And actually, no, I disagree. I think Denmark will beat the Czechs. They have an insane press.
Yes, the best in the tournament.
And Denmark, that was another that they should have been the dark horse that everybody was saying. They are a true dark horse. And I think coaching-wise, they're just absolutely immense. So I think they do go through. But then England, they win that. And I think it's going to be an Italy-England final like we had wanted. And England will take it home, or they should. If they don't, questions need to be asked. Because
even with France out, it was just a clear path. So.
I think what's happened with Ball Over Passion in terms of our predictions, everything that we predicted has probably gone the other way. So I'm going to go.
No. My
everything Wave predicted has gone the other way.
Yeah, Wave predicted has gone the other way. Yeah.
You know, I'm just going to go with Spain. I don't know why. I just have a feeling they might just shock us. And then in terms of Denmark versus Czech Republic, I think the Czech Republic will do it. And then obviously England versus Ukraine. But it's coming home, so.
So as the non English fan in here.
I think Italy will beat Spain. I think Italy just have so much momentum right now, and I think that's so important in international tournaments too. Like, they don't look like they can lose. They literally every game they play, they look so good. Like, Italy yesterday were amazing, and I was hoping Belgium beat them, but like, hold on. Yeah, I was hoping Belgium would beat Italy, but Italy were just like on a different level. And I think on the other side of the bracket, I think England beats Ukraine. I think Denmark, again, another team with so much momentum as well. They don't look like they can be stopped either. I do worry about their attack, but I think they beat Czech Republic as well. I think England beats Denmark, so I think it's going to be England, Italy in the final. And that's so hard to predict because, again, I think Italy is the best team. I think Italy is the best team in this tournament. But a final at Wembley with 65,000 fans potentially, like that's a game changer right there.
I think England.
I have this feeling, man. I have this feeling England is going to win it. I don't know why. I think Italy is the best team. I think Italy is a better team than England, but I just have this feeling in the back of my head that they're actually going to win it.
Yeah, for me, I did say I think Italy and England will play the final, but with England, it's just like they have the better players, definitely. But Italy have been the best team since the first game. So I don't think we'll be like a clear distance in the final.
I think it goes to penalties. Honestly, I really do. I think it goes to penalties. I don't
think
see
so.
it.
I think
I think-
Southgate has learned with Grealish, and through just pure pressure, Grealish will start. And
I don't think
when
Grealish will start today, bro.
Sancho
Come
started
on,
today.
man.
I don't think he'll start
You
today.
just said the phrase Southgate has learned. Okay.
I think he will learn. Grealish is just too good, man. And I think look, England, even if the coach is going to inhibit them and it'll be a close game, Italy don't have the large potency to really make it troubling, and England do. So like even if things are going wrong, and I always look at pragmatic approach. Everybody knows I'm a pragmatist, but if things are going wrong, I think it's harder to change for Italy than it is for England. And
Yeah,
so
Italy, if you notice, has the same 3 substitutions every game. It's always the
Yeah.
same ones that come on. It's Chiesa, it's a midfielder, and it's
Belotti.
usually a fullback.
Belotti.
Yeah.
So-
Belotti, yeah.
So before we move on, for me, the other semi-final is England versus the Czechs, and my men will fall to the English,
My
sadly. But look, everyone was talking Turkey. My dark horse was the Czechs, and I still believe in them to do this. They have. I believe in Sushek. I believe in Kufar. I believe in Schick. Kalas has been immense in the back. Vatslik has been a great goalkeeper. That guy does not have a club, for God's sake, right now.
Crazy.
He's been one of the best goalkeepers at the tournament, and I just think that I do think they get to the semis. I do think they fall at the semis, throw up the fist. But it's time for them to. I do think they'll
I
do.
think it will be a
today.
good match though. Them versus
Yeah.
Denmark.
I'm definitely going to be watching that on the big TV I have at home. But it's going to be an interesting one. In terms of winner, I do think Italy win it. I don't like saying it, but I do think Italy win it. If you look at the team's form going into that final, I hear what George is saying, and I want it to come home, but I just don't. I feel I've been English too long, guys. I know what I know what hope does to you. I want us to win so badly.
That's your self-deprecating Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
talking.
just.
It would be still England though. It would be
Hope
so
for the best,
England.
prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
Beat Germany and then lose to Ukraine.
As I said, I think it goes to pens, and I don't know. I don't see it finishing in 90 for sure, but heart says England. Heart says England. Head says Italy. But I'm more than wanting to be wrong on this. But main reason we bought Liaison because he's got his top on. He's got some good news for himself,
Sure.
and I want to get onto it. So Jadon Sancho, how are we feeling? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling tired, man. It's been a really long saga. And I'm just really happy it's finally over, honestly. Like that Here We Go from Fabrizio Romano was more like just
Relief.
Wow, it's about damn time. But
Wasn't the actual announcement better from United?
yeah,
It's that ending to Pursuit of Happiness. It's just like clapping outside. Finally, it's happened.
just
He gets announced and then straight away he's in the England starting 11.
Yeah.
Hey, that United bias isn't a spread is starting for Brazil.
Oh,
But
God.
listen, I'm delighted that we finally got this one over the line. I'm a massive Jadon Sancho fan. I think without a doubt he improves us, which for me is always like the biggest thing about a transfer. Does he fit right into your team and make you a better side? And Jadon Sancho undoubtedly does that. He suits a need. I mean, that's a real conversation. Where is his best position? Where is his best position for United? How does he affect where Rashford plays? But I think if you're looking at it purely on paper, he's going to start off on the right. And that's a position that United really hasn't had a bona fide star in since arguably Di Maria. And if you want to go even further back than that, Ronaldo at some points was playing on the right. But we've really missed a presence on that right-hand side. I think with Wan-Bissaka behind him, even more so, it really benefits us because a Wan-Bissaka Greenwood wing partnership it can only take you so far, as the Europa League final really showed. So Sancho, immense signing. I think the money we spent on him, we saved 35 million in a year. Amazing. We're paying this whole thing in 5 installments, which Dortmund last year didn't want to pay it in like more than 1. So great deal. It's amazing for me that we're getting business done this early in the window. I haven't seen this in years. Overall, man, I can't complain. Brilliant business.
Yeah, for me.
Well, I was gonna ask you. So I think I was construing my face as you were talking about right wing because everyone knows Jadon Sancho is probably one of my favorite players, like in my account, right? Like he's world class. Like I'm not having these debates about it. Like he's a world class player. So you getting him is a worry. Let's just get that kind of out there, right? Like I don't want this to be predicated, by me not rating the lad because he's immense. 30 goals and assists in 3 seasons. You're world class. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't care whether you do it in farmers leagues or not. Whatever, he's done it. We know that. Best position though, that's the question I have because for me, he's best on the left.
I agree.
Like 100%. And when you have Luke Shaw bombing up, who's arguably been one of the best left backs in the Premier League, now that's a scary partnership.
I agree.
Sancho and Wan-Bissaka, I misconstrue. I'm actually happy. I'll tell you as a rival fan, I hope you guys do that. And I know you've not had a right-wing presence, but if you were to ask me as a rival, what would I fear more? Jadon Sancho, Luke Shaw, or Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Sancho?
It's the first. Yeah.
It would be the first one. And what I'm afraid of is how does this transfer impact United? Because I believe on the right wing, you're getting a world-class player. Don't get me wrong. But you're going to impede him with an Aaron Wan-Bissaka fullback there because he needs somebody overlapping to really be truly devastating. Look, he's world-class in and out, right? Like, that's not a debate. Like, he can go in and out for days. But for Jadon Sancho, the unpredictability, he's had his best form, I believe, in Dortmund on the left with an overlapping fullback. And so if you want the best Jadon Sancho, you'd want that. But then that impedes Rashford, who is best on the left wing for me as an outlet. And so I always felt that United, with this transfer, you're getting a world-class player, but how does he fit in terms of getting the best out of him? I'd worry if he was on the right wing, if I was putting myself unbiasedly in your shoes, only because I think he's had his worst form in Dortmund on the right wing.
I agree completely. And that's why I really brought up how does it affect Rashford? Like for me, that's the biggest one because for me, I've always been a Rashford fan. Like since he broke on, I actually was at Old Trafford when he scored 2 goals against you guys. Like I witnessed that. I witnessed that like in person. So for me, I've always had a soft spot for Rashford. I think he has amazing talent. But for me, honestly, the last year and arguably a year and a half, I haven't been happy with his form. I know he's been
injured.
He had a lot of great goal scoring moments, especially in the beginning of this season. But for me, his form has desired a whole lot more. His performances haven't been that great. And yeah, I hear it 100%. He has been injured. He has been crocked for a long time. And I honestly really worry about the people who advise him when to play, what tournaments to show up for, because for me, he needs surgery and he needs rest. He shouldn't be going to a Euros. But the way he has been playing, I honestly think that he's kind of developed. He reminds me of what Mbappe has done. I'm not comparing them as players, but Mbappe for me is at his best when he's a pure outlet. Like you saw his tournament in particular, Pogba playing him in behind. He makes any bad pass look like a good one just because of his speed. And I think Rashford really has the potential to replicate that and replicate what Son did for Spurs, for example. Like for me, he's at his best when he's running in behind. But Rashford has really changed his game, maybe to benefit United because that's really what they needed at the time, and to becoming like a half space winger, someone who starts at like almost starts at midfield, plays balls in behind, where for me his best strength, like I said, is running in behind. If he moves to the right, I almost feel like he'll be forced to be a bit more direct, which will actually benefit his game. And I'd really like to see Rashford on the right, Sancho on the left, Bruno in the middle, and then the striker up front. I'd really like to see that personally.
Do you think the Sancho signing will probably be the downfall of Rashford then? Do you think? It
could be because man, we have a player in Greenwood as well. I think Pogba honestly is a better. Even if you want to put Sancho on the right, I think Pogba. There's a debate that he's a better player on the left than Rashford is. Like the way Rashford has been playing, he doesn't have now. He doesn't have that.
I just think Rashford's anymore. Inside forward probably at his best. So when United play him, he's not necessarily that. So he doesn't really benefit him, and he hasn't been fit for 2 years, 2.5 years. So I don't think we'd see the best of Rashford until he gets extensive rest, which Oli doesn't seem to want to give him. And
here's the thing though, to defend Oli, and I don't do this often, I don't think he's really been afforded the chance to rest Rashford. Like obviously, like if you want to protect the kid, then you have to rest him. But if you look at the options he's had,
he's a Saka. It's analogous to us and Saka.
Yeah, you couldn't bench him. Like even for me saying his performances were bad, he was one of 2 players who was basically scoring all season. So you couldn't really bench him. Now though, I was looking at this yesterday. We have 7 to 8 options in that front 3 that you can realistically play. And although Dan James is in that, and he's not really like a great option.
No.
You have 6 to 8
Good Euros
players.
though.
Yeah,
All
Martial,
your wingers
Cavani,
are best on the
Rashford.
left, which is
What's up?
weird. All your wingers are best on the left.
But now we have, but exactly. But now at this point, now you can play Rashford on the right, you can play Greenwood on the right, you can play Sancho on the right, you can play Amad Diallo, who for me is just going to keep going leaps and bounds on the right. You have Dan James, and then you have Pogba who can play on the left. Martial, hopefully he can return to his form. Rashford, Sancho. So now you have options in that front three. Rashford for me should not be getting as much game time, whether out of force or whether he just needs the damn rest. To be honest,
I think the one question that I wanted to ask you, Lay, is because look, I want to get it out there. I think he's world class, right? My only fear with United signing, okay, is they may misuse him in terms of how he impacts a lot of your best players. Like I'd say Rashford, Greenwood are your top two talents in terms of right now. Like Sancho becomes that because he's world class, but if you're going to put where these players are best at, I would argue Greenwood. I see him as a striker. I don't know about you. I know he can play right wing, but put him up top. Like, don't let him come deep. Like, the boy is mustard when he wants output, right? Like, he's got insane tech. Put him up top.
Yeah, I agree.
Rashford, insane ball striker, runner, outlet. Like you said, Son, I see him at the left wing. He's got to be on the left wing for his best football. Jadon, though, he's got to be the best on the left in terms of that. And so I've always wondered, what is the dynamic going to be? So let's say like we put him right wing. Are you not worried that Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who isn't going to help him on the overlap, he's going to be left isolated? Jadon, that is, doing too much work. Like we've seen that with some of our own players in terms of mainly our right-hand side where we don't have a right back ourselves that is really poor up top. And we've seen our right wing in Pepe, who we believe is a really great outlet, but has struggled, right? When you don't play to your player's strengths, are you worried at all that he may not be able to translate his best form?
Definitely. Like Sancho's best form honestly came with Hakimi behind him. Like that partnership, that duo together was formidable. And Wan-Bissaka, like I'm not a fan of Wan-Bissaka personally. I think he has his strengths. I think here's the thing with Wan-Bissaka, right? He played the most minutes out of any player in Europe's top 5 leagues. Out of any player, he started the most games. So obviously we definitely overused him. He was definitely overworked. And while he did improve in certain facets, which I mean I'd hope so, he gets paid a lot of money to improve his play. He definitely has a ceiling, and I think Ollie knows that too. Like we've been after Kieran Trippier, we've talked about bringing back Laird on loan. Dalot probably will end up staying the season. They've looked at Tavernier from Rangers, so they definitely need someone at that right side. But one thing I will say to kind of sum this all up, like where is his best position, who gets hurt by this? Sancho is 21, 22 years old. He's on a 5-year contract, and I don't think Ollie will be here for that long, if I'm giving my honest opinion. I think the most important thing about this signing is we're building, and I think this is where I have to give credit to the manager. He's done a good job of forming a core and forming a group of players that are going to outlast him at United and are going to be here for any manager to take over successfully for the next 5 years. So you look at that team that Mourinho left behind for Solskjaer, it needed so much improving. It needed so much gutting. And to give credit to the manager, he's done actually a really good job that the next manager who comes in has a really good group of players, has a good core to build around. And I think that's the most important thing. You have Sancho, Rashford, Greenwood, hopefully Pogba, Bruno, Maguire, Shaw. Like that's a good group of players for the next manager to take over. So in that regard, I'm happy we're getting a really young, incredibly talented player. Let's see how they really use him.
Before we move on to the Arsenal portion of this, I want to suggest a. I've discussed this with some of my friends on online. I want to see what you think as a United fan.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to give up Rashford for a Pepe because it gives you balance? Because of the balance and the ability it gives you in transitional. Because if you look at Pepe at Lille, his ability in transition is someone that was on par with some of the best people in the French league. So would you take that deal? Because it does give you a bit more balance on the side, and we do need a player on the left that can play in those channels.
Listen, I was actually a massive Pepe fan. At Lille, like he was my main guy. Like I wanted him so bad in the summer of, what was it, 18, 19? Yeah, no, 19, 20. 19, 20, I wanted him so bad. Also because I have a bias towards Mahrez, and for me, he reminds me so much of Mahrez at his best, like cutting in from the right. But if I'm looking at like logistically, I think Rashford is the more valuable player. He's the younger player, and while Pepe probably is a better fit for us, I don't think I'd take a straight swap. You might have to.
I mean,
throw in
that's
an
fair.
extra- Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. I wanted to
in
get
terms of balance, I have to agree. Pepe would make more sense for United, but I think Rashford's upside is higher. To be honest with you, I think Rashford.
Because I wanted to get your thoughts, because it's a deal that I've been talking about with people, and not because it's anything real or anything, but it's just a theory of mine. I would have thought it would have, in terms, it makes both teams better, in my opinion, anyway.
I think in terms of balance, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, we've got Babs in the building as we're going to move on to Arsenal.
You all good?
Yeah, all good, bro.
Great.
We're moving on to the outrage in the fan base now, so we might as well get into it.
Yeah.
So, William Saliba, it's an issue that before George goes off, because I know he wants to, I'm gonna do this because it needs to be said. Look, guys, if you're talking about William Saliba, he is someone that I'm disappointed we're sending out on loan. I don't agree with it at all. I don't like it, but if you look at the thought process behind it, I do understand it. I understand why we're doing what we're doing, because if you look at the amount of games he's going to get playing next season, he's going to be playing 40 games next season. That is more than we're going to be playing in the league next season. He's going to be playing at least 40 games for Marseille next season, if it does get announced. And I always say that you always only believe things on the website. And I don't know if it's going to be announced or when it's going to be announced. But if it does get announced, I'm all on board for it to happen because of the team he's going to. If you're playing Europa League football and you're playing week in, week out, that's all you can expect for a young centre back. You need to get minutes as a centre back. So I think that next season he comes. If we extend him, then that's it. I don't mind a steal at all. But the key is the extension. I mean, anyone come in on this? But
I struggle to see that happening, honestly. I mean, to be fair, in the last 2 weeks, we got in touch with Saliba's agent, and he was adamant that he wants to get his client out of Arsenal's books. So whether it was a loan or it was a permanent transfer, for now we've seen a dry loan to Marseille. And Arsenal definitely wanted to keep him. They were actually pushing to move him to a Premier League team on loan, because I think it suits Arsenal most. But the fact is, his agent agreed personal terms with Nice and Marseille, and he was adamant it was going to be one of those two clubs. Now it seems like there's a lot of mutual, there's no interest in terms of keeping Saliba at Arsenal from the agent side. So I think, if we end up looking at a few Marseille players, we might just give Saliba away to them, and cut it short there. Really, I just generally don't see a future for Saliba at Arsenal. I think it's just one of those mystery transfers that in a few years' time we might live to regret, or we might just say it was probably the best thing to do. We never know. But unfortunately for now, he's gone on loan, and that's it.
So one point I'm gonna make is a year is a long time. 1 year is a long time, and if there is a chance that we can save this relationship and what we're going to be doing, it's got to be done on the pitch. I feel like if Saliba comes back and we're playing in the Champions League next year, is he really going to try and force a move out to try and avoid playing in the Champions League? I just don't see it. So I feel like we need to do our stuff on the pitch. We need to hope that Mr. Napa and Mr. Arteta and the rest of the board get him on board and say, look, do your best and come back and really show us what you're going to be, what you're about, and how you're going to be playing. How we want you as our centre back for the next 5 to 10 years. So. What do you think, Babs, anyway? What was your thoughts on the Saliba situation?
I'll say initially I was a bit angered, as per all Arsenal fans. I like to melt down. We like to be depressed. We like to be angry. But listen, as much as I would love to see him stay, I can see also a side where I don't think he's ever played a whole season anywhere, even at Saint Etienne. No. So Like, he's still 20 years of age, so he's not even like a player in his prime years. I mean, a whole season away, playing every single game is only going to do him better. At Arsenal, he wasn't going to play every single game, especially with Ben White. So would I rather have him play 15 games at Arsenal or less, or play 30 plus at Marseille? I'd rather have him go out and go to a league where he can play. I would prefer to see him go to a Premier League club, but he's chosen Marseille, so we can't just, talk about that too much. And look, he's still got 2 years left in his contract. I mean, if I was Arsenal, I'd give him a contract extension, just to like kind of put it to bed if he has got a future at Arsenal. Give him a contract extension, so when he comes back as well, he holds market value. So if you want to sell him, if that is the case, if that's what they want to do, then so be it. But also, if he has a future at Arsenal, he's got a contract as well. But look, would I like to see him stay? Yes, but is the end of the world? No. So I'm not gonna cry about it for too long.
CK, go for it, man.
With the Saliba deal, it's weird because I didn't initially think that he'd actually go on loan to what is it, Marseille, and all the French outlets are saying that he's done now. I see the positives in him going on loan, with him playing maybe 40, 50 games next season or something, whereas at Arsenal he probably play 20, maximum 25.
If that. I think he's playing 10 to 15 games if he comes next season. We don't have that many games, man.
He'd have less competition, and I think it'd do him a world of good to have more. I think I would have preferred different loans, with him staying in the Prem. But again, it's
European
not done.
football, man.
It's not done. That's what I'm saying.
As I said, I only believe it when it's posted on the website. I never believe anything anyone says until I see confirmation or a tweet from the club itself. Before George, because I can see him stirring, I'm gonna let Lies as an outsider here. What's your thoughts on this deal, man? What's going on?
I mean, I think that's a good way to start. I definitely am an outsider looking in. I don't know the complete exacts, but what I do know, and what I'm kind of curious to hear from you, Kieran, you said it's now on Arteta and the board to kind of, in a year, make Saliba feel like he's at home, or make him feel like he has a future for the next 5 years. But you have Gabriel, who you spent how much money on? 35 million on him.
Something
you
like that.
Are potentially buying Ben White, another young center back, for what? Reportedly 50 million.
Yep.
I'm not saying that those are bad center backs. These are really good center backs. But when you spend that much money on two relatively young center backs themselves, who probably have ambitions for them to be your duo for the next 10 years, as Saliba, who himself is pretty young, you spent 30 million on him. I don't feel like that's the most welcoming, hey, we want you here for the next 10 years yourself. If you've already bought in 2 seasons back to back guys that are ready to play now and are pretty young themselves, where is the opening for Saliba? Of course, if Saliba is really as good as the reports were saying originally, that he's the Mbappe of center backs, that he has Varane-esque potential, then yeah, he'd have no problem breaking into that duo eventually. But I just feel like buying those two guys, again, as an outsider, maybe you guys know more about this than me, I feel like that's already kind of making the message clear that these are our guys for the next 10 seasons.
So with the Ben White thing, so you've got to realize as well, we've lost David Luiz, who is our main ball progressing
right.
centre back in terms of centre backs as well. And as I'm sure George is going to mention in a second, you can't have a duo of 20 and 21 years old starting for a top 6 club and expect them to just flourish and go straight up. We needed quality in the squad that is Premier League proven. If you look at Ben White, he's played on loan at Leeds. He did very well there. He's been playing at Brighton. He is their player of the season, and he's in this England squad. And even though he's not playing, you can see from reports around the club, around the squad, he is very well rated in this squad.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a case of in 1 year he's probably going to be starting for England. It's just that this England defense is just so settled at the moment that it's a bit tough to get in, especially with Maguire back now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Ben White is a good center back. I'm not doubting that 100%.
No, I'm not saying. But what my point is I don't think Ben White is a Saliba replacement. I think Ben White is a David Luiz replacement, because at the moment we need David Luiz. I mean, George will say as well, and I'm sure everyone else knows in this. Wenger always had a penchant for an older centre back, because he didn't have the trust in a young, because you I can't remember the quote off the top of my head, but it was something like, if you have a younger centre back, he's going to lose you points because they need the minutes, they need the experience to be able to develop into a general at the back and someone that will be able to organise a defence. So, in terms of William Saliba's future, it's a case of, well, we need someone who's going to be able to get minutes consistently and prove that they are, because it's as we've mentioned already, he's had bits and pieces of seasons here and there. It's not been a consistent sort of one season where, okay, you can say this is his body of work for one season. It didn't happen at Nice, St. Etienne. There was issues with the pandemic, and at Arsenal he didn't play. So I don't know. I think that it's not as it's a case of we have to let people. Everyone I think needs to take it from a 10 down to about a 6. Because it's not a 10 yet, it's about a 6. I'm not going to lie and say I'm not annoyed by it, but I can see the reasoning behind it.
For me, I would have at least gave him preseason. For me, that's. If my club had an 18-year-old that I spent 30 million on him, like we sent him out on loan last year, I think already like there was a lot of question marks, like why is this guy not even playing with the reserves at one point? I think that was what was happening anyways. I would have at least wanted to see him get a preseason just to be given a chance at least, because I feel like if my club was doing this, I would feel like they don't really have any plans for him. Let's send him out on loan again. I feel like you're not even giving him like a chance to come back into the team, come back into training and show them that he's improved.
I think that's more on Saliba himself and his team because of how he's been treated in the past. I think they want the loan more than the club want to send him out.
If that's the case, then fair enough. Yeah.
Because I think the way I mean, Z can back me up. I think back me up on this. I think that Saliba's agents, as he said before, want him out of the club. So if it's the case that they want him out, I think the loan, this loan that is being proposed, is more a case of, well, we want him to be at Marseille next season instead of the club saying, because I think the club was always clear throughout the season saying he's going to get a chance in preseason, he's going to get a chance in preseason, he's going to get a chance in preseason. And I just think it hasn't worked out that way. It's sad. I don't like it, but that's how it's turned out. And I think now it's the time to let the former Saliba season
go ahead.
unleash on this deal.
I've got a lot to say because I've seen a lot of hyperbole right now about who is Saliba, how good is he. Can we not lie right now about an incredible prospect right now? Anybody who has watched him, look at the stats. He is one of the best defenders in League One, not being dribbled past. It's not just he's being called the Mbappe of center backs. He is absolutely an immense prospect on quality. That is undisputed. So for me, it is not a playing issue right now. In terms of the rotation, though, in terms of me trying to rationalize this, like I'm looking at Arteta right now, and regardless of what, we have a big divide, guys. I'm sure you can see this.
Yeah.
Whether we're Arteta in or out, but what Mikel Arteta has, and I don't think people understand, is he's facing the most divisive moment of his managerial career. No matter how much you believe that maybe, or I believe that the talent is there to compete in the Premier League right now, it is factually a risk to trust your top 4 future on a U23 center back partnership that is yet to play a first top flight game together. Okay.
And won't.
Anybody on the panel cite to me a time in the last decade that top 4 has been achieved by a Premier League club with an under 23 center back partnership?
It just doesn't happen.
Of money.
Has
that been a precedent?
Isn't Ben White under 23 though, and isn't Gabriel as well? Fair enough.
Yeah, Ben White's 23 right now. He'll be 24. Yeah. But my big point is, has that happened? And for Ben White, the one difference that I have with him and Saliba has not played a single game in the Premier League. And there seems to be a big push with our targets. And I believe because Mikel is under pressure to perform. Mikel has 4 months to save his Arsenal career. Let's not have that debated, right? And for me, I'm trying to rationalize. I feel as though there's too much risk to say he concretely will perform with Gabriel, having not played a single top flight game together in the Premier League, with Ben White, who has 2 seasons of English football precedence. He excelled in lead system with Bielsa. He excelled with Brighton right now with Graham Potter, who both play very similar to us, but also he won player of the season with Brighton. Like, it's not just that he played well. He was their player of the season. So when I look at the comparison between two, I put up this graphic because really, just to not to confuse people, but when we're looking at David Luiz, a lot of people tell me that, David Luiz is replacing by Ben White. But actually, if you look at this graphic here, it proves that William Saliba's passing networks are far more similar to David Luiz than Ben White. Ben White's a very different type of profile here. And so if you're looking at whether or not these players can play together, what you can see is Ben White has, in how he's performed, it's been on the right wing. You can see it very clearly right there. And that is because of how Brighton utilize him. He's used much more in a sense that he progresses from right center back, but he goes deep and he plays on the right wing. And how we utilize Callum Chambers, I know people don't want to hear it, but Callum Chambers is somebody who inverts in the midfield and then overlaps. Just look at Ben White's passing patterns there from last season. That looks a lot like more of an advanced right back to me. And it's not guaranteed, but it just shows the versatility that Ben White would offer, where I don't believe it's a direct replacement, because Ben White's only 6'2". Yes, he is a right center back, but that isn't the role that he plays consistently. And so when I worry about how do they fit in together, it's not an issue for me. I believe it's more, does Mikel trust the ability to have an under 23 center back from the first game of the season, and will it guarantee him top four? Because I'm not sure. Another factor to keep in mind is he's 20. In a year, he becomes homegrown. And, I don't know if people know, but, Raul specifically had him into the Premier League squad when he first signed in order to become homegrown in 3 years. And so right now he's a foreign spot. Next year, he becomes a homegrown player in terms of how we can register him. So when I look at it in a year, if you're going to tell me George, he was only going to be rotation, right? Because if you're telling me Mikel doesn't trust this partnership, so he wanted another option, and you're telling me Saliba is going to get 20 games a season or 40 games, I'm saying, yeah, for his development, he has to 100% get a loan. Like, I want him to have minutes. So if that's the options I'm left with, I would have preferred a loan. The only thing that I will say to keep optimistic on this front about a long-term development and a long-term plan with Arsenal is he has to sign an extension. That's the only way in order to be optimistic on his future within the club. But if we're talking pure playing ability for a club that employs Rob Holding right now and has played over 20 Premier League games for us last season, it is not a question of ID. And in fact, targeting a Ben White makes me think there's no way that Mikel doesn't rate. Why would you target Ben White if you don't rate William Saliba? They are the same in profile in terms of what they like. They love dribbling, playing out from the back. If he didn't like William Saliba, why would you recruit Ben White?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense.
The one thing that I will say, though, just to round out my thoughts on it, I believe, sure, it possibly could be an agent-led disruption. And I do think we've got baby Mino Raiola on our hands in terms of what we've heard through the ether about what he offers to the club. But fundamentally, the club hold the power in this instance. And if he is a long-term future with the club, I don't believe William Saliba feels mistreated. I've always never felt that. I've never agreed to that perception because he's defended him in interviews. And the truth about how that Rennes loan came out last year, by the way, proves that Arsenal didn't mistreat him. It wasn't that. Now, if his agent feels a certain way, that's a different conversation. But for me, the most important thing is what does William Saliba feel? And I've always felt that he wants to play for Arsenal. So in terms of, becoming that next step, I don't see Ben White as a worry in blocking William Saliba personally, because I've always believed that they can play together, especially how we play in our setup. But further than that, every top team has 3 core center backs. Okay. Manchester City have wasted millions and millions of pounds trying to get center backs. If you look at that rotation of a defense, getting Nathan Ake last year for £40 million from Bournemouth makes the Ben White deal seem a lot more reasonable when you think of the precedents here. Yeah. English homegrown center backs.
It's a tax for it. It's a premium. There's a premium for it.
And he is a 6'4" center back. The only thing I'm going to end, Ben White is 6'1", 6'2". Yeah, he's a great in profile, but again, you saw those passing networks that we posted on the screen. To sit there and think that he's a right center back right now is a little bit strange. He's very versatile. And again, the only reason I will say, though, to be optimistic is it has to come with an extension, right? I think that's everything that everyone is saying here, that he needs to be extended if he truly is in your long-term plans. Because I just want to end, say I'm wrong. Let's say, George, you're totally wrong. You're too much in your head. You love Saliba too much. Cool. if we want to sell him, why in God's green earth would he accept a loan? If he wanted to get
Doesn't
out,
make any sense. No, he would just want to get out now.
But yeah, he has 3 years on his contract now. Why wait a year when he has 2 years left on his contract? Like, if he hates it here, why does that make sense?
It's a compromise that's been reached. It's just that simple. I mean, before we do go, because I know we've been here a while, but I do want to quickly touch on the upcoming announcements, hopefully, of the 2 other players that we have been linked to. So the Nuno Tavares deal and the Lukaku deal that's imminent. I'm just going to quickly mention. I'm going to get Bavs to come in as well before we come off. I just think that we have now addressed squad depth in this window. I think this is a great start for the window. It's time to go from squad depth to the first team. And addressing squad depth first has allowed us to really feel that we're a bit more confident in squad building, and this is what I was going to talk to Liaisons about as well, because in terms of balancing of squad, we were talking about the amount of left-sided players that were at Manchester United. I feel like we need to look at how Premier League squads are being built at the moment, and they're not being. And at this moment in time, we're trying to build a squad that is balanced throughout all 3/3 of the pitch. And now we have actually got backups. So we've got Lukaku, who is a Partey backup. We now have Nuno Tavares. Say what you want about his personal life, and God knows that was a mental thing that we found out. He is an attacking left back. He does have the correct profile in terms of being an attacking-minded left back that bombs forward, that is able to contribute and build up an ability to put crosses into the middle of the box. He does have defensive liabilities, but I don't think they're as imminent as people think and as prevalent as people think. So, I just want people's thoughts on this quickly before we head out. I'll start with Bavs quickly.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with in the first aspect of the squad depth. You know, you look at the left back department and how much it cost us last season. You know, if I'm right in saying, did Tierney miss the first Villarreal game?
Yes, he did.
So you know, if you had a backup left back there, and was it who played left back? Was it Xhaka, right? Xhaka versus Chukwueze. If you had a left back in that game, yeah, it could have been a different game. Now, in Tavares specifically, I'm not quite sure about the player because I ain't watched him play. So I'm not going to make any massive judgments. Oh, he's the next this, next that, or the Mbappe of left backs. So we'll see how he works out there. But in midfield, with Sambi, I am low-key excited. I can see he's our Guendouzi replacement, isn't he? You know, a young centre midfielder, both same ages, similar profiles, same position, and both young captains. Sambi's captain of Anderlecht.
He's the party backup, basically.
Yeah, exactly. He is, man. So you're kind of future-proofing that midfield department there and there. Yeah. So you're right. It's an impressive start, but I still want to see more creative midfield signings. That's the key. Yeah. I know a lot of Arsenal fans would Saliba, this and that. We're forgetting our main department of where we need to address, and that is the attacking midfield department. Forget the centre midfield, the defence, the right back. I'm talking central attacking midfield, whether it's a Maddison or someone like that. We need to address that. That's the key. Last season, we didn't not get top 4 on the 6 points because of our defence, because we actually had a good defensive year last year. It was because we couldn't get goals and create chances. Simple fact.
For sure.
So that's why I'm not as bothered about Saliba's situation, because I realise even if he comes in, like, he'll improve us potentially, but we don't know that. But whereas we need to sign a proper number 10 that we know will improve us, even by just being there. But I don't know what's going to happen with Smith Rowe as well. He's probably going to get better, most likely. Physically, he's going to grow as well. But yeah, it's a good start. But we'll see how things progress. I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be ranty and shouty and go, Arsenal, where's the players at?
No, God, no.
Sign them right now. It's a shambles, because I see this too often, especially on social media. You guys are on Twitter as well. Spaces and stuff like that. It's always, where's the players? Where's the players? Like, the window's just opened. Or, you know, the Euros is about to finish. You'll see more signings happen as well. And yeah, let's see how things happen.
Right. CK, I know you've watched Tavares a bit, so I want to hear your
I've watched him a bit. His defensive position annoyed me. But with Arteta, he like, if you've seen Xhaka before and after Arteta, you've seen an immense change in positioning. So it's not much of a worry to me with Arteta changing that. He's an excellent crosser, which Tierney also is, and which Kolasinac wasn't. So it will benefit us in the future. And wait, yeah, with him, I think he'll be a decent sign. Now, I would prefer other people, but he's decent enough to decrease the drop in level from if Tierney gets injured. And with Lokonga, I just think those two positions, whenever someone was injured, it cost us a lot in the season. So to see us be proactive in replacing them positions is only positive, and it's good that we look to have 2 signings done, and it's early in July now. So yeah, I can't complain.
Yeah, sorry. Z, any thoughts on the two new signings? Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we've addressed our central midfield in terms of backup. We've addressed the left back as well, so that's good. I think now we just need we need to make the signings that obviously elevate our team, and makes our team turn from pretenders to actual top 4 challengers as well. So I think that's what we need to do. And I've heard, interestingly, this morning that we're actually working on 2 more. That's aside from Ben White and potentially Madison. I don't know, but we are working on 2 more deals, and that's something that's not even on media right now. So when I heard that, mate, I was just like, okay, we're actually actively working on deals. So we're in a good way. In the next few weeks, we'll probably have a better understanding of how our squad will shape up for the game against Brentford. So yeah.
All right, George, I know you got some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I've always said to people, this is the transfer strategy for Arsenal in terms of addressing squad depth very first that hindered us last season. It was very important. Guys, we put Granit Xhaka in our most important league game to replicate things with Kieran Tierney. It was vital. We got a backup for Kieran Tierney. Our squad balance is absolutely all over the place. And so these squad depth signings ensure that we can play the way that we want to play all the time. And we haven't said that we could last season. Whether Partey was out, we never had a replacement for him. We looked horrific without Partey. So just having somebody that can do that in profile is absolutely immense to maintaining the style of play. In terms of these players, the one thing I'm going to say, they all have defensive positioning issues, but we're making a bet as Arsenal that Arteta can coach up these positionings. And you know what? He's had the proof in the pudding in being able to do that. He's coached the uncoachables and Mustafi and Holding to look semi-decent. We've got the 3rd best defense in the Premier League with Rob Holding starting over 23 games. El Neni starts over 23 games for us in all comps. That's ridiculous. So
I will say one thing. I do think that Rob Holding Gabriel partnership in that first half of the season did actually do very well. I know people don't like Rob Holding.
Okay, but
it did well.
It
was one of the main reasons we got to that 3rd best defense in the league.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying ultimately there's precedent for Arteta coaching up players defensively, and
100%.
This seems to be the fault with these 2 players. The one thing I'm going to say is Lukaku has co-signs from Leipzig, Atlanta, and Bayern Munich, who have all and Lille, and that's not too bad in terms of recruitment precedent, is it? Look, on the players, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm an expert on them. Really quickly, from my clip personal assessment, Tavares, immense final ball and crossing, really good varied passing, but he lacks a 5-yard burst. He reminds me a lot of Aaron Wan-Bissaka's running patterns, where he actually lacks, I'm sure Liaise could tell you, but he lacks 5-yard burst. When he gets going, he's decent. But he does have some positioning issues, but that's not a problem for me. He's very much a dynamic left wing back. That's very clear. So we're replacing in profile. Great. Lukaku, he is absolutely immense on the half turn and bursting into space. If you look at him data-wise, it literally looks like Arsenal I thought they had no scouts, cough, cough, but they do. It literally looks like somebody told him, guys, can you guys profile Thomas Partey and give me somebody under 23 like him? Because if you look at their radars, they're the exact same thing. So it's a perfect 6'8", who's a conductor 8 for me, really. And he's perfect in that Partey air. I'm just happy. We're doing squad depth. I don't doubt that if we're spending 50 million on Ben White, I know if Liaise can tell as a rival, but Arsenal have money and they're going to spend. because
Yeah.
spending 50 million on Ben White doesn't tell me Arsenal don't have money.
No.
It tells me, oh shit, they're spending a lot because they're splashing 50 million on somebody who's not a priority, right?
Yeah.
And that just tells me a lot in terms of our ambition. So I'm happy. Let's wait to see what we end up doing in the end.
Right. And I mean, as a rival fan liaison, when you see us making these kinds of moves, what are your thoughts on them? Are you just not impressed? You feeling a bit worried? Why are you feeling?
No, I mean, sometimes you have to make like these. For me, on the question of depth, my normal philosophy on this is that you should always buy first team players so that the players that you are like first 11 players, so that the players you already have in that position become the depth, or that you get your depth from the academy. But I think in Arsenal's current position, I think it's pretty fair to say that you guys actually have a very strong 11 in terms of like the players you currently have in those positions. Sure, I think right back, I think you definitely do need a better right back in there.
100%.
But for the most part, you have like really good starters. It's the depth that you really need to address.
Yeah.
I don't think making Emile Smith Rowe depth is like the number one priority. I think you guys need backups for those guys. So I definitely think buying guys like Lokonga, like Tavares, like you can do a lot worse than that, and they're good buys. Like they don't cost that much money. They address immediate needs. So in that regard, that's great. I'm very interested to see how the Ben White deal, when that gets concluded, whether you do end up getting a Madison. I've seen like reports for WholeLottaLyes, so I definitely have an eye out for Arsenal's transfer window this summer. It'll be interesting to see who you guys get in.
I mean, we're gonna end it here, but I want to just say we're gonna be doing a podcast tomorrow. We're gonna be discussing a couple of things. We're gonna be discussing a couple of things after this call and get things. Say again?
It comes out on Spotify.
It will come out. Yeah, it will come out on Spotify on Monday, and then the YouTube version will be on Wednesday. I want to thank Lies for coming on because he's not too big for us anymore. I think he's
never that.
And always Babs. That's my guy right there. That's my bro. I love that guy, man. So I appreciate you guys coming on. Everyone, if you want to do a quick plug for yourselves, go for it. And then we're gonna head out. So who wants to start? Go for it. Go. Whoever wants to go.
You can subscribe to me on Whole Lotta Mid on YouTube, and then you can follow me at WholeLottaLyes on Twitter for everything football. Come through.
And Babs.
Yeah, Babs 14 on Twitter, Insta, and on the YouTube as well. Subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to Babs because Babs is the man, guys. And then the normal crew. So we got George.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at GeorgeVAFC. Guys, remember to like and subscribe to videos. Like, it lets us know to keep up this great content. We're honored to have these like awesome guests, Babs and Lies, come on. They're just absolute inspirations in the space that we're trying to be. So yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, so we can continue to do this.
And then Z.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's been a great discussion. I mean, I think in the next few weeks, man, we're gonna have a lot more, videos coming in probably midweek because transfers will get confirmed left, right, center. So look out for that one. And yeah, I mean, if you want to follow my account on Twitter, it's private Arsenal Z, and I don't have an Instagram account. I might as well make one. But yeah, it was nice actually being on, and looking forward to the pod tomorrow as well.
And then CK finally, and then I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter, but don't reply to my stuff. On Twitter, and
he'll lamp you.
Ball over passion on TikTok.
Yeah, or on TikTok as well. If you want to see me creasing at things and doing cringy reactions, then go to subscribe to the TikTok. And the man's name is Pure CKK on Twitter. And now, what we all wait for is Karan gonna miss his name on the thing. Is right there. He's got it right first time for once. It's right there at CC_BOP2, and this is Ball Over Passion. You can find us on Twitter at Ball Over Passion. You've got the YouTube. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Let us know what you think, and hopefully we'll bring you lots of different content. Past 300 subs now, so thank you for that, and appreciate all of you. So please, like, subscribe, and peace.